Alright, so we're going to start modeling a dragon head. So I found this image online. Obviously you want to do a little bit of research and just get some ideas for different dragon heads that are available. Obviously it's a non-realistic creature, so there's it's open to interpretation a bit. Okay, for your first one you don't want to go into too much detail. You want to find something simple and then add detail to that simple one. Okay, so like this guy here, we could start off with a base like this or something like this, and then we can start adding stuff like the horns to it, or these little horns like this, or these little spikes, or these little fins. Okay, so you want to find something that you can kind of use as a reference for your dragon. So I'm just going to move this over to my other screen, and we're going to make a brand new project. So I go to the project window, hit new, and I'll call this Sarcona_dragon. Now we're not going to do the entire dragon, we're just going to do the head and neck. So I'm just going to start off with a polygon cube. Okay, and I'm going to go to my side view, so right view, and I'm just going to scale it up and I'm going to start deforming this to get the basic shapes. Okay, anytime we model something organic like this, we want to start off with basic shapes and just build from there. So I'm just going to start moving some points, and this is going to be the neck area, so however thick I want the neck to be. And this is going to go into the head like this. Okay, so if I just pull up my grease pencil, so his neck is right here, and then his head is going to be like this, coming down into something like that. Okay, I'll give him a mouth, we'll give him an eye, his nose right here, and then from this point we can actually start to develop it further and start to introduce things like those big horns or hairs coming off of it. I saw one that had a bunch of little hairs. It was actually pretty cool. We could pull some horns or something going this way, whatever. Okay, so that's how we're gonna start to build this guy. Oops. Alright, so I have this. I'm also gonna go to my front view and just scale this down like that. Now one thing that's gonna be helpful is if we only model half of this guy. Okay, we don't want to model the whole thing, we just want to model half and then mirror it over. So I'm going to go to my tools here and go to my insert edge loop tool and just drop one edge loop right at the center line. And the way I figure it out is I go to the split ring, change the weight to 0.5, and now this line is perfectly lined up. Okay, so I'm just going to go to faces and just delete that side. Alright, so just from the perspective view, that's what we have so far. Alright, and then we're going to have to manage this other side, because my next step is going to be to grab this and extrude it. And when I do that, I know I'm going to get a face on that other side. So I'm going to go to extrude. I'm going to pull this up like that. I'm just kind of shaping how this head is coming in. Okay, so I'm going to grab this again, extrude again, and pull that out here, taper it down some. Okay, so there's our first shape. There's this elbow joint like thing. And in perspective view, you'll see I have these extra faces. I can just delete those extra faces. Okay, so this is basically, what does in its most bare state, what is the profile of our dragon? Okay, obviously if he's, pulls back here, be something like this, his head might be a bit shorter. You can see his neck is right there and his head just pops in right here. It'd be something like this, his neck is going to come up and his face is going to be really long and a bit narrow. So this is that stage where we're kind of figuring out what kind of dragon we're going to have. Okay, and getting him into position. It's going to make a difference if his nose is up here as opposed to down there. So So I think that's probably good there. I do want to scale these in a bit. I never want to grab this middle and scale that. So I have to be aware of that because it takes it away from that center. I want to grab, spin around, this guy and scale this. Okay? Because that just scales these two. It doesn't pull it away from that center line. Okay, so again, we're just getting the gesture of what this thing is looking like. And we can change things later. We just want to get very, very roughed in. That's rough enough, okay? I think I'm going to just pull this guy here, and that's what we get. All right, so now I can start adding some divisions. So I'm going to go to Insert Edge Loop, and I'll add a division here and a division there. So we'll add some vertices. Oops. And we'll modify the shape of this. And if it helps, as you're working on yours, you could actually go to Dragon Profile. And sometimes you can find a pretty good profile of a dragon. Not a 3/4 like this, but something like that guy. Okay, and you can actually use this to model yours, your dragon off of. Okay, or even something like that. Alright, so I'm just kind of eyeballing this and just moving some stuff around. I'll put this on my other screen. Okay, now if I go to perspective view, you'll see that he looks, obviously blocky. If I hit 3 to smooth him out, you'll see that he's looking rounded, but he's looking also kind of like blocky rounded is what I call it, where this is basically really flat on this side. So I'm going to add a division. I'm not going to play. I'm going to add a division right down the middle here, and that way I can grab these and just pull these out. Okay, so this is where his mouth is going to be, so it's going to be sticking out a bit more. Pull this out a bit more here. There we go. I'll add another division maybe right here. Just give that a push inward. That way his head's kind of separated from his neck. So it's actually like, an area where it stands out some. There we go. And we grab these guys here on the neck. I'm just going to scale it in, or move it in. Now I am just grabbing the arrows and pushing and pulling the arrows as opposed to scaling. Okay. And I'm not grabbing the center and trying to move that. I'm grabbing the arrows to push it out, or to push it in, or whatever. Okay, so now you can see this looks a little bit more rounded in features. I'm going to grab these bottom ones here, pull this out a bit more. I want to give them a little bit more presence. Come on, object mode. There we go. There we go. All right, now it's hard to see too. What is this going to look like when we double it? Sometimes, you can't really estimate just based on the half of it. So under the mesh menu, under smooth proxy, I'm going to do a subdiv proxy. Go to the option box. And inside here, I'm going to say I want to mirror the full thing. That way I have basically a smoothed out version of the entire thing. And then in the direction, I'm going to look down here and see that this is going in the negative x would be where the mirror direction is. My merge threshold is set to 0.001. That's perfect. And I'm going to subdiv proxy shader. I'm going to say keep. I believe that's the right one. And then say smooth. There we go. Okay. So now what we have here is if I click, and I go to wireframe, you'll see that I have this shape here. Now it's not lining up perfectly, but this outer shape is my, let me grab these and hit 1 so I can see which one. This outer shape here is the one I'm modeling, okay? And then underneath it, we have this thing, which is our little smoothed out version that's, all the way down. Now he's not, if we look at this, he's not really meeting right at the center. So what that means is that on my guy, I accidentally moved some of these points away from that center line. Okay, and it happens. So I'm going to go to my top view. I'm going to right click, go to edge, double click that edge. And then I need to snap it. So I hold down X for grid snapping, and I move it until it gets lined back up. Okay. Now sometimes it doesn't work, and I have to go to the Move tool. I just double click it, and I turn off retain component spacing. Okay, so if that's on, we want that off. All right, so now we can see that we're still off a little bit. All right, so let me just zoom in and see why we're off a little bit. All right, this side is good, but if you look at my pivot's actually right here. So I'm just going to delete those pieces. All right, that's gone now. I want to make sure my pivot's right on this line, so I hold down D and C and just middle drag. There we go. Then I go back to this smooth proxy, subdiv proxy, and I think this time I'm only going to do mirror behavior half, and then say smooth. There we go. All right. So now if I hit 3 on this guy, then I can see what they look like. All right, so now I have, a roughed out version of what this is going to look like when he's all smoothed out. All right, and as I play with this piece, you'll see that the other piece is updating. Okay, and that's an important thing, especially for beginners, because it's hard to estimate, what things are going to look like. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to rough in some of the shape. So we're going to rough in the nose, rough in the eye area. And if you look at, here's that one I was talking about with all the little squiggly things, which is pretty cool. If you look at a lot of dragon eyes, they have these tiny little eyes. Okay, that one obviously is a bigger one. I actually like the bigger eyes better. Okay, so I like to reference a lizard eye as the eye I use for the dragon. Okay, so I like this little bumped up area here, or even like this where it's kind of like set in like that. That's actually like the perfect eye I like. Okay, lots of wrinkles in there, lots of detail. Alright, so that's what I'm going to go with on mine. So I'm going to grab these faces here, and if I extrude this, because I'm going to extrude it, if I extrude it here, you'll see how we go, basically it's like too close to the center. I want to have a little bit of a buffer. So I'm just going to undo, and I'm going to insert an edge loop, let's say right about here, and right about there. Okay, so I'm isolating where I want that eye to be, because I want it to be essentially right here. That's where I'm going to pull the eye out of. Alright, now when we put in any divisions, we can't just leave them there. We have to actually tweak them so that we don't get this roughness happening. Okay, it's going to flatten out our geometry if we just add divisions and never move them or smooth them out. Okay, so we should be adding and tweaking our stuff as we add stuff in there. Especially like in the neck area, which we may want round, we'll lose some of that. Alright, so I look at it in, without anything selected so I can see it. It looks like it's a bit tight under here, so I'm going to go to edges and just kind of pull this guy out a bit more here, pull him up some. I don't want to go too far because that's like his jaw line. There we go. Okay, so that's good. And you'll see how we're getting this line where the head is separated from the neck. Okay, thinking of the muscle structure underneath, there would be bones obviously along the spine, but in the front would be more of a fleshy area. But then when we get to the head, that's like all skull. That's all bone right there. So we have that line happening right around here where all these things are coming together. All right, so there we go. So now I'm going to go back to faces. I'm going to grab those. I'm going to hit play again on accident. I'm going to extrude, and I'm just going to switch to the move tool and just pull that up a little bit. Okay. Now I don't like the shape of this that it's coming off, so I'm just going to tweak it manually. Just going to edges. I'm just moving the edges until I get the shape that I want. Okay, and sometimes switching back to 1 will give you a good indicator as to how far you can move your stuff. You never want to cross, let me switch this back, I want to cross into this surface, even though it might look good here. That's a bad thing when we go back to this. So I always switch back to 1 to see where my stuff is, and I try other ways to get it to look the way I want without crossing the surface, because it just makes it more difficult later on. I'll pull it out there like that. Okay, so I'm just reshaping, or shaping actually, the eye socket of where this eye is going to go. Okay, so that's okay right now. I need another division going right down the middle. So edge loop, right about the middle-ish. Add some divisions, and then we can tweak the shape of this. Okay, so you can see the kind of shape I'm getting, this little ridge happening right up on top. That's what I'm after. Okay, I don't want this to look like it's sticking out though, so I am gonna, tweak this until this doesn't look like it's sticking out anymore. So that looks good. Let me switch to edges. Alright, so that looks pretty good the way that is set up. Alright, so the eye socket area is good. I'm going to see if I can get away with adding some more divisions to just this area. So I'm going to go with my edge loop, and I'm going to click right about here. Nope, not there, right about there. Okay, and it contained those divisions here. Had I clicked up there, you'll see that it goes all the way down. I want to avoid that right now. I just want to contain where my eye is. And then I'm going to go through and just kind of tweak these. Too much. Edges. Okay, and you can see now that I added this extra division back here, we're getting a little bit more of a crease than I want. So I can start to, again, manipulate. Spreading these things out is going to definitely help kind of soften that transition into the skin. I'll even pull these guys a little bit forward. I'm just going to grab that guy too. There we go. I don't want to go too much. I want it to look like it's separated, but I don't want it to be, crazy. You have to have some mix of soft and hard edges inside of here. Otherwise, it's not going to read correctly. It's going to look like it's all jello and not like skull. Okay, so let me just take a step back and take a look. Let's see if I'm liking the way that's looking. I think I'm going to take this here. I'm just going to pull that out some. I just want to have a little bit more separation between the neck. And I cut the skull a little bit too short, so I'm going to just push these a bit further back. There we go. So now we have more of the head kind of back here further. Oops. Alright, so we should be good enough for now. Alright, we can smooth a lot of this stuff out later too. We're just getting the structure of it. Alright, so that's good for the eye. All right, so now let's go in and start setting up the mouth. So for the mouth, we need this to be able to open. At some point, you might want to actually animate this guy, and so we have to look at the mouth. That's a good picture. So in this one, the lower jaw is actually like tucked under here, and the top lip part is hanging over. It's kind of similar to what we're going to be doing. So back to Maya. I need to separate this area here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, and I'm going to use the multi-cut. Or if I switch to my tool here, I can go to the multi-cut. Alright, I don't have it there. I thought I had it. Add that one in. Go to the multi-cut tool, and I'm just going to draw in where the mouth is going to be. Okay, so I'm assuming that in the other one we had this line that went like this. Here, then here, then here, then here. Okay, let's see, how far back does this go? See, it's right under the eye in this one. So all the way to about there. Okay, so that's how far back this thing is going to go. Now the reason I added it this way is because I want to control these other ones later, so I'll get to those ones later. I never want to just terminate right here and just leave it like that. Okay, but in this case I'm going to leave it because I'm going to come back at another time. Actually, I'll just do it now and just finish this guy off. There we go. Okay, now I could have done an edge loop here, but I thought I actually had more to go down on this side, so I was going to save that for later. So let's pull that out. And let me just tweak some of these points. Like that. There we go. So I'm looking at the rounding here. I just want to make sure that all kind of matches. All right. All right. So now that we have the mouth line in here, just going to tweak it a little bit because again, I don't want to just leave it where it was. There we go. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to do another multi-cut. And this one's going to be shaping the actual mouth opening. Okay. So I'm going to try to get this pretty close to this line. You see I'm going right along the edge here. Okay, now this is where the eye is coming in, so I'm going to actually connect it here. And then go to about there. 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 Enter. Okay, so now if we look at this and I grab this face, I've created my own loop. Okay, so I can take that and delete those faces, and now we have an opening for the mouth. Okay, and then we can tweak this, you know, to get this to look more like a lower jaw. Pull that down some. Edit this edge out a little bit more. Maybe rotating it. Okay. We're building the structure of what it should look like on the inside, and then on the outside we can always come back and tweak that. Okay, and we're doing it independent of the top jaw, or the top lip area. Alright, so there's that. Now his neck is actually starting to look a little bit not rounded. It's actually looking pretty oblong. So I'm just going to come in here real quick because it's going to bother me. And I'm just going to grab all those points down there and just scale them out. Okay, so now I'm getting more of a rounded shape. It's not perfectly round yet, but a more rounded shape. Okay, and you can see where we're starting to get some of these structures. This is what I'm looking at, is that little dip and this little pucker here. And I'll fix the eye a little bit later. Alright, so we're good. The other thing that we're going to pay attention to is that we don't have any triangles on this thing. Everything we've dealt with so far is a four-sided face. If I click on any one of these faces like so, and I count the edges that make up that face, 1, 2, 3, and 4, you'll see that we have 4 divisions here. We have 4 divisions there. We have, even though this looks like a triangle, you'll see that it's actually made up of this other face right there. Okay? So everything is four-sided, and that's the way we want to keep it. Even this guy that we just cut in, 1, 2, 3, 4 edges. Okay? So that's the way you want to always keep that thing set up. All right? So now that we have this head here, we can start to build the inners of the mouth. Okay? It's going to be a little bit difficult to do, so we're just going to go to Faces. And let me just smooth out some of this first. Okay, just want to make sure, go back to Vertex. And I see that this vertex, if I go to the front view, you can probably see it better. This one dips down a little bit. I don't like that one dipping down. So I'm grabbing this point and scooting it up some. There we go. That's good there. Okay, and I'll tweak some of these things after. Alright, so what I'm going to do is go to Face, and I'm going to grab all the faces on this bottom jaw area, just like that. And I'm going to go to Isolate Select, which is this guy. And you'll see that I have half of that jaw. So what I want to do is I need to create the gums. Okay, and again, you can use Google. I don't know if it's going to pull anything up. Yeah, I don't know what that is. So let's look up teeth. There we go. That's a good one right there. Okay, so we have this area, the gums, where all the teeth are like set inside. So we're creating something based on this. And so we don't want to, we can't just grab this and use it. What I can do though is grab these faces, and I can go to Edit Mesh and say Duplicate under Face. Okay, now it disappears, so I'm going to hit Undo, and I'm going to go under my Show, Isolate Select, and I'm going to say Auto Load New Objects. So now if I go to Edit Mesh, Duplicate, we'll actually get the dragon coming back in because now he's a new shape. When I duplicated him in my outliner, I got a new shape called P-Cube Smooth Proxy Group, P-Cube 1, and then I got these two surfaces. Okay, so that's fine, no big deal. I just have to go and grab that area again, and I'm going to grab the jaw area again, and I will say Isolate Select. There we go. Oops. Well, just ignore those for now. Alright, so now if I look, one of these, this guy here, I can verify it just by hitting the Isolate Select button again, and then hitting Undo. Alright, so now I know this one is the one I want. If I grab it and start moving, both of these shapes, I know that's part of the whole dragon, not just the lip. Okay, so now that I have this, I can build my dragon based on this, okay? Or build the, not the dragon, but the lips and the gums. So I'm going to just go to Edit Mesh and say Extrude. This one way down here. I'm going to go to Thickness. And I'm going to say negative 0.2. Let's say negative 0.35. There we go. All right. So now I have, inside here, I have this extruded shape that I can use as my base for the gums. Okay. I'm also going to center pivot this. Actually, I'll put the pivot right here, back there. And I'm just going to scale it down a touch this way. And scale it down a touch that way. Okay, and the reason I'm doing that is because this outer lip right here is actually going to have the lip folds on it, which we're going to create now. So I'm going to go to Edge. I'm going to grab these edges along the top, like that. I'm going to go to Edit Mesh and say Extrude Edge. And then I can just push that in. Why it's not updating. Go back to my Isolate Select off. There we go. So now I have, if you can see, I have the gum line, or the lip line being created. I'm going to extrude it again. I can push it down. And there we go. So now I have the lip right here, so it has some thickness. And then I have inside it, right there, I have my gums. Okay, so I'm done with the lip area right now. I can just use the gums. I'm going to delete these faces on the inside. I don't need those. Okay, even these ones in the back, don't need those either. So I can delete those faces. And realistically, all these faces underneath. There we go. Just looking and seeing, which ones do I actually need. I don't need. I'll leave that row in there. That row. I don't need this row. Okay. So I deleted the stuff on the bottom because you're not going to see that anyway. All right. So now I can just start to tweak this and shape this so that it looks like gums. And it's not going to be perfect in this instance. We're just going to get it kind of close. So I'm just going to go and start to divide this so I have more evenly squared divisions. There we go. And then what I can do is just come into these faces. And some dragons, whether you follow dragon lore or not, you may know that some dragons have tiny teeth and some dragons have big teeth. Okay, so depending on what you want or the kind of dragon you're creating, you have to just keep that in mind. Okay, let me just tweak the gum line a little bit. All right, that should be good. All right, so what I can do is grab these faces here. I'll leave that one alone. And then I can just say extrude under faces. I'm going to scroll down here to say keep faces together off. Take my offset down. 0.05. I think I need to add some more divisions. Okay, so I'm going to hit undo a couple times. There we go. All right, so let me add some more divisions to this. So just an edge loop here. Basically everywhere I want there to be a little dimple for where that gum line is, that's where I'm adding a division. And we always want to keep our polygon count low, but at this point we actually need to add more divisions. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to go to faces again. Here's a trick. You click on that face, I shift double click this face, and it grabs that whole row. Beautiful. So now we'll extrude again, and then I'll go down to keep faces together off. I'll take my divisions down to, or my offset down to 0.05. Okay. And then I can just, let me try pulling it down and hitting 3 and see what we get here. Oops. I think I want to extrude it before I pull it down. So I'm going to extrude again and then pull it down. And it's hard to see because it's black right now. My normals are flipped. So I just have to go up to normals and say reverse. And now we can see that. And you can see how that's now looking like a gum line where we would have teeth sitting inside those areas. Okay? And we can come into these individual areas and grab their edges. Edges is the easiest one to grab. And we can start to tweak what some of these look like. We can also grab vertices if we want to reshape some of these. Okay, it doesn't matter if these guys are sticking through here, because when we smooth it out, that actually goes away. Also, this is on the inside of his mouth, so you're not going to see it too much. All right, so that's pretty good the way that that's set up here. Okay, so I'm going to create a new polygon cube. And we're just going to bring this into where one of the teeth would be. There we go. Okay, now again, this guy has 2 major teeth right here, 3 in there. But if we look at some of these other dragons, you can see the different kinds of teeth that all these dragons have. All right, so it's kind of like it's open to interpretation, right? So on this guy, he's going to have some teeth. All right, he's going to have some big long teeth right up front. So I'm going to delete the bottom face. We don't need that. I'm going to hit 3 on it, and you can kind of see where we're going with this. There's the tooth. So now we just start adding divisions. Insert edge loop, go like that. I'll move this down like this. I'll grab the face, I'll scale it down, and you can see right there, bam, there's a tooth. Okay, give it some more shape. Grab these faces here and extrude those, and just knock the offset down. And then when we hit 3 and smooth it, you'll see that now we get this like nice edge here, which is turns out looking pretty cool. All right, so then we can reshape this and putting that into position. Now it may not fit perfectly. We can adjust that. All we're gonna have to do is just take these gums and grab a couple faces, and we can just snug that in. Pull it up a little bit here. Okay, so after we start building some teeth, oops, obviously a bit off. After we start building some teeth, then we're going to go back and just adjust what the gums look like. And that'll give them their character so that they look, like actual teeth. Now, if they intersect a little bit, like that, it's not going to be a huge deal. We don't need to add even more divisions just to correct that, or, there are going to be some gaps in some areas. Okay, but the goal is that, how we're going to see these dragons from the outside. We're not going to be zoomed in on their tooth right here to see these holes. So we're going to be covered. All right, so I'm just going to take that tooth now and just duplicate it and scoot it over to this hole. Okay, now I'm going to do all of them. I'm going to duplicate all of them around, and then I can start to tweak them. So just duplicate, Shift D, scoot over, Shift D. Okay, and I don't even want these really spaced perfectly. That's why I'm kind of adjusting them. Start to rotate it a little bit. I want my dragon to have, kind of bad dental hygiene. There we go. So I'm just going to keep doing this for this whole tooth. And then I'm going to repeat this whole process for the upper teeth, except now that I have this gum line, once I'm done with this, I'll show how I can just duplicate this whole thing and just flip it upside down. Okay, and tweak some of that. So I'm just going to take a little break from recording. That way I can just do this without you having to watch me do all of those individual things. Alright, so I have all the teeth put in. If I hit 3 on this to smooth it out, you can see they're all nice and neat. We can have these little ridges in here on some of these. We'll add more detail to it once we get into ZBrush. We can add a lot more detail to this. Now, one thing that I'm noticing as I'm doing this is if I click off of this, you can see that the gums actually look like there's some ridges right in here. Okay, and I don't want those ridges to be right there. So I'm just going to smooth this out. Okay, and I'm going to use under the mesh tool, the sculpt geometry tool. Okay, and I believe that one of the ones we added here right there. Okay, so I'm going to use B as my brush size. So I just hold down B and then left click and drag. And then I can make sure this is on smooth, and I'll just smooth this out, and you'll see how those lines just go away. Okay, perfect. That's all that's doing, is just kind of smoothing out that transition. Now, as I got closer here, this kind of separated. You can see from that center line. That's fine because I can adjust that as well. I could also use it out here. Shrink my brush even more. And I can use it to smooth some of this out if I need to, or I can use it to pull some of this. Now you'll see the arrow in mine is huge, so I'm going to hold on M and pull that back to the left. And I can pull this out here. Gorgeous. Okay, so that's good. Yeah, that's good there. So I'm just going to go back to the move tool. I'm going to align the center line, so I just go to edge and double click. It tries to go all the way around. You can see all the way around, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to click here, come up to this front edge, and shift double click that, and now you'll see they're all lined up. And then for my top view, I can just hold down X and grab this red arrow, and that will line all of those up. So any one that was away from the line will now get lined up exactly to that line. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have that, I can go to Mesh, and I can say Mirror Geometry option box. I'm going to go in the negative X direction. Again, I look at this little manipulator. Negative X is going to be on this side, and I say Mirror. And you'll see that it mirrors it. I'm going to zoom into the center area and just make sure that I don't have any overlapping points or anything weird going on. Nothing's weird there. Typically, you have to come to the poly mirror and just change this merge threshold to 0.001, and then everything's cool. All right, so there's the bottom gums. I just need to get the teeth over there. So I'm going to grab the gums, hold shift and marquee so I grab all the teeth. Then I'm going to duplicate, group, and then I'm just going to negative scale it in the X, and you'll see that they automatically pop to the other side. And then I can say edit, ungroup. Okay, so now we have all the teeth on both sides. We can still modify them later, but this gives us a good starting point. And so now I'm going to do the same thing to create the top. I'm going to grab all of it, duplicate, group. My pivot turns up down here, which is fine. We can always move that. And I'll just go to the negative Y. And you see that it's down there now, no big deal. Just move it up to about there. I'll even put my pivot right here. So I hold down DV and I just middle click. Okay, then I can rotate right from here to bring this jaw down further. Okay, I'll even unisolate so I can see where the jaw is and say, wow, that's really off. So just push this up, go into that side view, and just move that right into position. Now I want to have the teeth kind of offset a little bit, so I could even go in here and scale this up some. And that way it'll be offset some. And it's also going to be a little bit bigger because it's the top jaw. Okay. Now anything that doesn't line up right now, that's no big deal. I can, like I've always said, you can adjust it. Okay. So that's that. All right. So now that's okay for now. What I think I want to do is take this bottom jaw and just rotate it some, just so I have more of an opening. I'm going to go to my side view and grab the faces, shift greater than, perfect. And then I'm going to put my pivot back here, and then I'm going to put my pivot back here, so just hold D, rotate. There we go. So now I've just opened the jaw just to make it easier for me to grab this and do that same thing. Okay? So I'm going to grab all my stuff. Now if you'll notice that this broke. So I updated this side, that side didn't go with it. Eventually this happens. So we just delete that side and we'll worry about it in a little bit. So I'm going to start organizing some of my stuff. I go to the outliner, it's a huge mess. Okay? This group here is my top teeth. I can call that top teeth. All of these, except for that perspective camera that I accidentally created, are the bottom teeth. Okay, and then somewhere in here, that guy is the bottom jaw. So I'm going to take all those and group those. All bottom teeth. It's a good time too to try delete history. So I'm going to grab everything, hit my delete history button. Good. And then I can just start rotating my bottom teeth so that they're in line. So I'll move my pivot up here, rotate them, and get these into position. There we go. Good. Easy. You can see how nice that looks in there. Maybe a little bit further down in the Z direction. Come on, just a little bit. And a little bit in the Y. Good. Okay, cool. Now let's do the same thing on the top. We need to adjust these, so I'll grab the top teeth. And then I'll fix my rotation. I'll line it up. And his jaw is a bit squarer, a square jaw. It's not perfectly rounded off like a lizard or a snake. So that's just the feature of mine. Yours obviously doesn't have to have that look to it. Okay, so now I'm just going to fit his gum line here to fit the teeth. Okay, I actually need to come out a little bit further away because we still have to do that lip indent. So I'm going to grab the edge tool and I'm going to go from here, 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 there to there. And we'll go to Edit Mesh, Extrude. We'll push it in some. We'll extrude again and push it up some. Okay. Alright, so now if I zoom in on this area in the back of the mouth, come on, right there, isolate it, you'll see that we now have these lip pieces that we've extruded that are not like connected to anything. Okay, so I'm just going to attach them so that they make more sense. So these 2 points that are just kind of hanging out together, I'm going to start off by just merging those. Alright, so Maya crashed on me, so I had to go back and save my work. We have these two vertices kind of merged here where the jaw comes together, okay, where the lips come together. So now we need a way to connect these guys here, this one right there and that one there. Okay, so the way we do that is this is one way to do it, and I think it's probably gonna be the simplest way. We just extrude one of these edges. So I just grab an edge, I'll switch to the move tool and just extrude it out. I gotta turn my isolate select off, and then what I can do is just grab this vertex and that vertex and just merge those. There we go. So now we have this as one piece. Okay, so if we grab everything and hit 3, takes a couple seconds. I can go and tuck this guy in. This is just a part of that jawbone, or that gum line sticking out. There we go. So that's looking pretty good. And then we can start to come in here and start to tweak some of these things to get it to look the way we want. Right? So I'm just going to move the pivot. This is a little trick. If you just move the pivot up towards the root of the tooth or down towards the root of the tooth, and then you scale it, you can see how it's scaling right from that area. So for the top, maybe I want to have teeth like this. Okay, and I could even do that with both of these selected, so I get both of them happening at the same time. Move the pivots up, rotate them a touch. Now you'll see it's going opposite because they're like, this is the opposite of that one. It's no big deal. I can always re-rotate that one back later. Point that one out more. That's good. So I just go to this one and I just take this rotation, oops, in the red direction, and I just make this negative. Oh, I went to the wrong one. There we go. So now we got a couple fangs hanging out right there. Okay, and we can do that for all the teeth that are inside here. Okay, so now we can also take this guy and re-proxy him. So we'll go to Mesh, Smooth Proxy, Sub D Proxy. We again do half, and we again do keep. And you'll see that now he actually went the wrong way. So let's go back to the tool. I probably chose positive X, yep, instead of negative X. There we go. So now we get a good preview of what our guy is looking like. Now again, this is a rough schematic. This is not a finished product of what he's going to look like. This is just kind of blocking in the major detail so that we can add in all that minor detail after. Okay, so I'm just going to add in or modify some of these other points just to get the gum or the lips a little bit closer to the gums here. Okay. All right, so that's off to a good start. Okay, cool. Let's go up here to the eye area. And we start to add in some detail for the eye. So over here, I want to isolate this area for the eye. Just take these. Now, basically, going to try to create this eye shape. Go. So if we look at a human, Dragon Imagine would have similar features. A human has these round patterns around the eye. So that's what I want to kind of create here is this pattern. So the first thing I have to do is just start to shape this area like a circle. So if I go to 1, you can see we pretty much have it with this, 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 and this. It's pretty much shaped like a circle. When I hit 3, it smooths it out and we lose that. Okay, that's fine because we can keep it like this and maintain that circle. I just have to adjust these corners so that they're more rounded. There we go, good. So there's those eyepieces. I'm going to extrude. Take my offset down. You can see how we're getting that rounded shape right here. I'm going to extrude again. I'm just going to push it in. So now you can see there's the eye. And if I hit 3, you'll see that we have that eye shape just kind of sitting right there. Okay. Now that's not the full-blown, what the eye is going to look like. Again, it's just a matter of roughing in that shape. Okay. So we're just getting the base bits of geometry in here so that we can tweak it. So I'm going to hit 3. And just start to tweak some of these points to get this eye to look the way I want it to look. Okay, we always start off rough and we work our way to smooth things out. And you're not going to be able to follow like he's clicking here and clicking there and clicking here. You just kind of have to look at your own model and figure out how do you get your model into that shape. And And the biggest thing is just making sure you have the polygons already in the right spot so that everything else just kind of falls into place. Okay. Now going back to 1, you'll see I kind of overlapped here. I'm going to have to fix that a bit. Okay, here's how we fix it when we do stuff like that, is we can grab the vertices. Oops. This one and that one seem to be the problem. Now it looks like, come on, I could probably just go like this and it flips them over. Let's pretend it wasn't. If we just go to mesh and say average, you'll see how it automatically kind of softens that area. Okay, here we go. Good. I probably want to take these bottom faces, maybe push them in some. Maybe flatten it out a bit. I'm just going to take these face ones, pull out some. And this is where we can give them a little bit of personality. Right now his eye is slanting, you know, from top to back, top left to back right. So I could take these points, make sure I grab all the ones that I need. There we go. And I could have it slant the other way. I don't need these points here. Okay, so depending on our personality of our dragon, we can change his eye, because that's one of the major items that creates what our dragon is looking like, it's feeling like. Alright, I got a little wavy line here. I don't like the wavy line, so I'm just going to go through and edit this point. Get that to look a bit straighter. Okay, same thing over here. There we go. Okay. Now if I wanted to have, we looked at that lizard eye, something like this, where it kind of creases here and creases there, I just need a couple more divisions here and a couple more divisions there. So I'm going to switch back to 1. Now remember, this is a quad here, and this is a quad there. All right. It doesn't seem to be flowing very nicely though, just because of how this is laid out. Okay, I don't like to do this where this face, you know, it doesn't really have a good representation. I want these to be connected. All right, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of remapping of my edges. So I'm going to go in with my mesh multi-cut tool. I'm just going to click across. And that takes care of that, so now those are connected, but now we have a triangle here and a triangle here. Okay, so I'm going to go through and just add a little bit of division here and a little bit of division here. Alright, so now this was a triangle, but now it's a quad. Now it has 4 sides. And now I can take this edge and bring it closer to that one. Or you can just grab the vertex and just start bringing these vertices a bit closer to that one. Okay, and when I hit 3, we'll see that, come on, we'll see I now have that little crease right there. Okay, so now I can do the same thing on this side. Use the multi-cut tool, connect these. Yeah, it gives me a triangle here, triangle there. I'm just going to go here. I can even pull this really close to that. Alright, same thing here, pull it really close. Okay, now on the inside of this, here, oops, these ones, not too important because we're going to be, they're on the inside, so you're not even going to see it. But if we are just kind of keeping everything nice and neat, it doesn't take much just to connect these. There we go. So now again, we just go through and just tweak the points to give it that overlap. And I'm going to take this side here, and just bring this down. It's probably a little bit too high. There you go. Now that side's looking funky just because of, sometimes it uses green color. You can just go to lighting and shading and assign existing Lambert. It'll take care of that. Okay, so now we have those creases right there. We have our eye set up. We could also go into our insert edge loop and just add a division here. And then watch this magic. If we just grab these two and pull it out, grab these two, pull it out. Now we're starting to create that shape, that rounded shape a bit more. Okay. Now we can even grab this guy, pull him out some, and down. Okay. Now the real shape of this is going to come from the eyeball. Okay, so this eyeball shape here. So we always want to take a sphere. In this case, I'm going to use a NURB sphere, and I'm just going to bring it up. Come on. And if we look, I'm going to hit this button here to go to wireframe unshaded. If we look, we have a point right there. So if I hold down V and middle click, you can see how it snaps that sphere right to my point. I'm just going to bring this in, resize it. And this will give me a good indicator as to what shape this socket needs to be. Okay, so I want the eyeball to be that big. I have to figure out a way to fit that eyeball within this area. Okay, so now that I have it there, now I can start to go through and start to tweak some of these points. So I'm just going to grab some of these and pull it out. There we go. Okay, and I'm trying to keep the same line going all the way around the sphere. Okay, that's like my eyelid, the point of contact. And I might have to go, from the back side and marquee and pull that closer. Alright, so from this angle, it looks like we're pretty good. We're probably a little bit, over lidded here, so we can always shrink this down. There we go. Maybe this one needs to come out a bit more. Good. This one we can push back a bit more. Good. Okay, now up here we'll do the same thing. We'll just grab these edges. And let's see how much more realistic this is starting to look just by adding that little sphere in there. Okay. Now we also have, if we look at, it matches a sphere, but you'll see that my sphere, if it rotates, so I've accidentally scaled it wrong. There we go. Rescale this down to fit. Yeah. When the sphere rotates, you'll see that it rotates perfectly like in the socket. I do need to adjust some of these properties here because that scale that I just did kind of threw some of my stuff off. There we go. Okay. May also want to, if this center of this is where the eyeball is going to be, in order for this to be centered in the eye, it has to basically be pointing up, and that looks kind of weird. So again, I'm just going to kind of line this up with where I think the eye should be facing, and then I can grab that whole eye area that should be good, and then I can rotate it and move it to line up the eye so it matches better. You have to get yourself comfortable with grabbing points and moving them around. Even if it doesn't end up in the right spot, you can still move it and adjust it. That looks good there. That's good. I'm going to push some of these back. There we go. Okay, so now we have the eye pretty much set up. We can add more detail to the eye, but I don't want to get too much in there. I'm trying to keep everything pretty uniform as far as the divisions that we have. So if I start adding a bunch more divisions here, I'm going to lose divisions in other spots where it's not as even. Okay, because eventually this guy's being brought into ZBrush, and we have to make sure everything's nice and square. Okay, what I mean by that is I can't have one face that's this tiny and another face that's that tiny or that big. Alright, so I'm trying to keep everything pretty consistently sized. This and this is okay because they're going to be a little bit different. But eventually we'll add more divisions to this, add more divisions to that. Okay, so let's add some divisions to the nose. Just extrude this up. There we go. And again, we have faces on this side, so we just delete them. And then we just start tweaking, what do we want the nose to look like? Alright, there we go. Alright, so that's pretty good for our head base anyway. I'm going to go through and tweak some more stuff. Okay, so I'm going to tweak some more stuff, and then in the next video, we'll actually be taking this from Maya and bringing it into Nuke to do some sculpting on it. Okay, or not in Nuke. That'd be a trick. Into ZBrush to do some sculpting on it. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at this. We can add some amount of detail, but for the most part, we don't want to get too heavy because, like I said, we're adding it later on.